Are you an S4 student, a vacist, or even then, an all-level teacher? Welcome to this episode, Digital Science for You. I'm Nicholas Norbert. Digital Science and Virtual Lab. You could ask yourself, what is that all about? Well, Digital Science and Virtual Lab is a student learning easily and a teacher teaching with no hassle. Digital Science and Virtual Lab software is a whole all-level science and mathematics curriculum presented in a digitized format. A mixture of 2D, 3D, video animation with text and sound. How it works, all you need is a computer with software and you, the student, and we are ready to roll. For this episode, let's learn biology. For example, flowers. What do you know about flowers? Have you heard about pollination? What are the types of pollination? And how does pollination take place? Coming up is a teacher for biology. For example, flowers. What do you know about flowers? Have you heard about pollination? Have you seen pollination take place? The different types of pollination? Coming up is a biology teacher with Digital Science and Virtual Lab to help you understand what pollination is all about in video. We'll meet after this lesson.
Hello class, my name is Lydia and I'm going to be your biology teacher today. I will be handling an S4 topic, and that is reproduction in plants. Under this topic, we'll be looking at the process of pollination, fertilization, and fruit formation. Pollination is the process by which pollen grains are transferred from the anthers to the stigma of a flower. Pollination takes place in two ways, or we can say there are two types of pollination. We have self-pollination and cross-pollination. Usually, your teachers draw diagrams on the board, something like this, here to show the stigma, the anthers, that is a flower, and they show you that pollen grains are moving from the anthers to the stigma. Today, I'm going to show you a more interesting way of studying this using Digital Science and Virtual Lab. Take a look at this. We select the class, select Digital Science, go to Biology, select our topic, that is reproduction in plants. Then sexual reproduction in plants. Then we go. Then we scroll down to pollination, fertilization, and fruit formation. After that, we can now go to the explanation and examples. Remember, we are looking at pollination. And I just told you that pollination can be self-pollination or cross-pollination. Our first picture here shows us self-pollination, and here we see the pollen grains moving from the anthers of one flower to the stigma of another flower. And this can be on the same flower of a different flower, just like we have seen. The other type of pollination is cross-pollination, where we have the pollen grains. I think you can clearly see the pollen grains moving from this white flower to the red flower. The flowers are on different plants, however, they are of the same species. That is what Digital Science can offer you. I believe you can never forget this. That is not all that Digital Science has. You can even go and look at the notes. We have the notes there. So even without the teacher, you can read these notes. After reading the notes, you can go ahead and evaluate yourself by going to the quiz. You can either choose the learning mode or the test mode. So before your teacher gives you that test, You already know how well you have understood that topic. Back to our topic, following pollination, the pollen grain germinates by developing a tube downwards to the ovary of the flower. And this can properly be illustrated again using digital science. You can see that pollen tube developing down the style to the ovary. We pause there. While the pollen tube is growing, it is led by the pollen tube nucleus until the pollen tube has reached the style, until the pollen tube has reached the micropyle of the ovule. But just before the male nuclei enters to fuse with the egg, it has to split into two male nuclei. So now, the pollen tube, let's look at our digital science. We take it back. We take it back to see this properly. There. The pollen tube brings the tube to the micropyle, and there we have the two male nuclei. One fuses with the egg, and the second male nuclei fuses with the two polar nuclei to form an endosperm nucleus. Because we have two male nuclei fusing, that is double fertilization. Amazing. I'm sure you can never forget this using digital science. Now, after fertilization has taken place, the long story is about to end. What was the flower is going to go through a series of changes. One of these is that the petals, the sepals all wither and fall off. What was the ovule turns into the seed, and what was the ovary becomes a fruit. This can again be well illustrated using digital science, as you can see. Following pollination, the petals fall off, the style falls off. What was the ovary has now developed into a fruit that you can even pick and eat. That was reproduction in plants. As students, even without the teacher, you can now go back to your digital science, select any topic, look at the explanations, try out even the quiz, and right there, excellence is with you. Biology will be simple forever. That is the power of digital science. Pollination is aided by certain factors, and these factors are known as the agents of pollination. These agents can be wind or insects. Okay, let's look at pollination that is being aided by insects as an agent of pollination. The flower must have certain characteristics that attract the insect to it. One of them is that the flower has to be large. We say it has to be conspicuous. That means easily seen by the insect even from a distance. The flower has to be brightly colored. When you look at those brightly colored flowers, they are not just for you to enjoy the colors, but they are playing a role in causing pollination to take place. These flowers have to also have nectar in them. So that sweet nectar attracts the insects, and while the insect is feeding on the nectar, it flies off with pollen grains on its body to the next flower, thus pollination taking place. If we try to draw this on the board, the way teachers usually do in the classroom, it will take a long time for you to see that insects actually carrying pollen grains on their bodies. But thanks to digital science, this is made so easy for us.
You're still watching Digital Science for You. Hope you're learning a thing or two about this lesson. You can also access the programs and the sessions via our main offices in Lugogo via the UMA Showground. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, CSTSUG. We'll be right back right after this.